On behalf of the NYU Stern Center for Sustainable Business, welcome to the second Private Equity Sustainability Practicum. My name is Gordon Fowler, and I'm a proud alumni of NYU Stern and a current member of CSB's advisory board. I have the privilege of acting as Master of Ceremonies throughout our program today, and I want to start by thanking our sponsors, Kirkland & Ellis, KKR, Invest Industrial, Quintus, Glenmead, Fulcrum Consulting Group, and media partner Impact Alpha for their generous support and partnership in bringing this event to life. I'd also like to recognize our co-hosts, Ceres GP, ESG Working Group, ILPA, UN PRI, and ICL, whose input support was invaluable in the research that will be unveiled today, the curation of content and speakers, and some of whom will be moderating discussions throughout the day. At our inaugural event last December, CSB unveiled interactive tools for PE firms and institutional investors to drive improved financial performance through sustainability. Now, at this conference, we'd like to share some of those insights, case studies, and learnings into how these tools can be used, as well as practical hands-on training and discussion amongst other topics. What we're covering today is vital for two reasons. First, the PE market in the U.S. is enormous. According to my back-of-the-envelope computation, about 20% of the total market value of the U.S. equity market. It is the primary place where things happen in the U.S. market economy. Many moons ago, this market might have been NASDAQ. Today, it's PE. Second, I don't want to say that we've entered winter for sustainability efforts, but it's gotten a little chillier over the last few months. Let's call it sweater weather for sustainability. And now that it's gotten a little brisk, it's really important for those of us who are concerned about sustainability to make sure that we focus our minds and our efforts on the areas where we can have the greatest impact. And it is the strong belief of the Center that this is one of the areas where the impact is going to be both greatest for sustainability and positive for the broader economy. PE funds are majority owners of hospitals, newspapers, schools, real estate, industrial manufacturers, consumer brands, and retail, among other sectors. Private equity is also a big investor in renewables and associated infrastructure, investing $52 billion in 2021, according to Bloomberg. It's imperative that we work together to scale sustainable business strategies among PE firms and their portfolio companies. The way to drive speed and scale is by showing how sustainability can drive not only impact, but financial performance. So, before we get started with our program, just a few important housekeeping items. While we do have media present, including our media partner, Impact Alpha, I do want to note that today's event is being held under Chatham House rule. For those not familiar, the rule is that all participants are free to use the information received today, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speaker may be revealed outside the event. This will help us create an open and inclusive dialogue where speakers and participants alike feel comfortable sharing their views and insights. For this reason, the only segment that will have photos or a recording will be Tensie's keynote. Thank you for understanding and cooperation. We have a virtual program with our full agenda and speaker bios, which you can access by scanning the QR code here on the slide. It's also on the back of your name tag, with plenty of time for networking and discussion built into the agenda. Please return to this room on time after breaks to keep our program on time and be respectful to our speakers. At this time, I'll ask you to please silence your cell phones, and if you need to take a call, just please step outside. So, with that, let's get to our program. It is my honor to introduce someone who is likely a familiar face named for many of you, CSB's founding director and distinguished professor of practice, Tensie Whelan. After 15 years leading the Rainforest Alliance, where she and her team worked with thousands of businesses globally to improve sustainable production and consumption, Tensie came to Stern in 2016 to found CSB. Almost 10 years later, her leadership and vision has enabled CSB to become an influential and trusted source of research and insight for business and investors alike. So without further ado, thank you for bringing us all together today, and welcome, Tensie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gordon. We have an amazing advisory board and so lucky to have Gordon on it. And he is going to be with us all day, so you'll get to hear more of his great humor. So I want to thank everyone that Gordon thanked. I want to thank all of you for your commitment and work on sustainability. And I also want to thank our CSB team, Claire Kells and the rest of the team for all their hard work to organize this event today, and look forward to a terrific set of conversations with you. So as we think about sustainability, value drivers, and private markets, I want to sort of start out with, why are we talking about this right now? Why is this super important right now? Super important because a lot of the criticism around sustainability and ESG goes to, I think, unfounded statements that this does not drive better financial performance, that this is just a nice to have, not a must have. So what we need to demonstrate together is that sustainability issues are material to corporate performance on both the upside as well as the downside, that we know that delivering the right sustainability strategies and practices drive financial value, and we need to prove that, that managing to ESG reporting metrics alone will not drive better financial value because those reporting metrics are process and not performance-based. In other words, do you have a policy on X versus what that policy is actually accomplishing? And companies currently are not tracking the returns on their sustainability investments, whether they're public or private, whether they have strong sustainability programs or not. And they are not currently assessing the cost of inaction. They are more focused on, oh, if I have to invest in sustainability, it's going to cost me X, and not really analyzing the benefits that could accrue financially, or as well as looking at the cost of, if they don't act, what would happen. So just on that last point, I wanted to share with you some of our research. We now have been looking for 10 years at actual consumer purchasing of sustainably marketed products in the United States in the consumer packaged good area. We do that with Circana data, that's just our all barcode data, where we buy in mom and pop shops to Target and Amazon, bricks and mortar versus e-commerce. We look at every year. And what we see is that sustainably marketed products are growing almost twice as fast as conventional. And what we also see is that, and that they're doing that at a 28% premium, I should add, as well. So that premium ranges from a discount for a couple categories up to 100%, but most in the 30%. What we saw last year, and this is where I want to illustrate the cost of inaction, is during an inflationary period, private label market share grew because it's cheaper, right? Also, sustainable market share grew, which is not cheaper, which is at that 28% plus premium. Who lost market share? Those companies that had conventional offerings. They could not compete on a lower price, and they could not compete on a sustainability message, right? And this is not a flash in the pan. We've been tracking this for 10 years, and this is the kind of demand that we're seeing even in the United States. We're now doing this work in Germany and seeing far more demand. So in Europe, it's even bigger. Okay, so as we think about how sustainability investments by corporations drive financial returns, and I'm focusing at the corporate level because for GPs, obviously your work is focused on how do we improve operational excellence to drive better exit valuation multiples. And part of that is improving that operational excellence of your company. So as we think about sustainability, how can that drive improved operational excellence and increase your returns at exit? So we've identified in our ROSI framework, return on sustainability investment, 9 mediating factors that drive better financial performance when you embed sustainability. Everything from operational efficiency to risk management to sales and marketing benefits, to innovation and growth. Of course, any kind of good management can drive these things, right? Not only sustainability, but what we see is that sustainability, different sustainability strategies for different industries can actually drive 3 or 4 of these at any one time. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. We also then take those sort of major drivers and how we think about this in terms of how we can define financial value and actually monetize it. We look at what the material issues and strategies are for a given company or sector. we assess the practices because it's at the practice level that you can assess financial returns, right? I cannot monetize a waste management strategy. I can monetize the practices that you put in place to execute against that waste management strategy. Then we define the benefits. Is that waste management strategy driving operational efficiency, innovation and growth, reduce risk, right? So we look at that, and then we figure out, all right, how do we quantify? How do we put a number on this, if it's intangible in particular? And then how do we monetize it? So I'm going to show you some cases of that. So a couple of strategies that companies are employing. One is around decarbonization. So what are the value creation levers with decarbonization? Obviously, energy cost savings, avoiding of energy pricing volatility, avoidance of carbon fees, avoidance of regulatory and market risk, potential on the upside, increased market share premiums, customer loyalty, more resilient supply chain partners, lower cost of capital. This is not exhaustive, but to give you the kinds of benefits that one can see from a decarbonization strategy. So just some examples of the work our Rosie team has been doing. This is in the healthcare space, working with Gunderson Health Systems to look at what the financial benefits would be of energy retrofits and net zero building design. And so what you see here is that about $1 square foot for energy retrofits, $2 a square foot for net zero building design. So again, from an operational efficiency perspective, benefit to the healthcare system. In another example, looking at last mile delivery for a pharmaceutical value chain. Here, again, we see that if you optimize and improve, and in other words, decarbonize your last mile delivery, you also drive operational efficiency benefits to the tune of, in this case, $54,000 annually. Annually. Another example, a apparel company, Eileen Fisher, began to change their, in order to decarbonize, moved away from air cargo, more into shipping and trucking. In doing that, reduced their costs on an annual basis of about $1.6 million annually. So again, a benefit to doing that and reducing their dependency on air cargo. Another example, looking at a utility out of Canada, Capital Power, who was trying to decide whether to get out of coal earlier than was required by the local government, did their own analysis, then added our Rosie analysis, and determined that, in fact, it made sense for them financially to get out of coal earlier. And I just looked it up, 2024, completely out of coal and improving their decarbonization plan. And in fact, we saw significant benefits to them in terms of stock price and cost of capital. Final decarbonization example, another utility here in this country, they don't pay for energy, right? So when they put in LED lightings in their massive buildings, they have lots and lots of employees. What we analyzed for them was actually primarily employee productivity. And we saw there was a benefit of this intangible that you could actually monetize of about $2 million a year in improved productivity of the workers in this place. And again, this is not an operational efficiency. This is looking at an intangible to understand benefits. Okay, now looking at sustainable sourcing commitments, another area that companies, another strategy that companies employ. What kind of benefits? I mentioned to you the Sustainable Market Share Index research that we're doing. So absolutely it's showing up in increased market share, premiums, loyalty. We're seeing as well with this reduced reputational operational risk as well, because if you're ensuring the sustainability of your supply chain, it's more resilient. Ability to make sourcing claims with third-party certifications is becoming increasingly important due to the crackdown on false claims by the EU and the states. And then also community support and license to operate benefits. So a series of benefits around sustainable sourcing. So a couple of examples, we worked with McCormick's on a couple of their iconic spice ingredients to understand the financial benefits of their sustainable sourcing program. And here we saw that when we looked at intangibles as well as tangibles, about $6 million annually net that will drive increased benefits for them on an ongoing basis as they expand the program. We also worked with Natra, which was an Invest Industrial portfolio company at the time, to understand the benefits to them of moving to a sustainable, traceable cocoa supply chain. In addition to being able to get premiums for the product, they were able to move from a commodity-based offering to more of a specialty-based offering, which enables you to have better customers, higher pricing, et cetera, higher quality product, reduce risk in your supply chain, reduce risk for your buyers, and so on. Circularity, another sustainability strategy that companies are using. What are the benefits that you can monetize related to circularity? Operational efficiency. You're buying less virgin product. You're paying less for waste disposal, right? We also see a lot of focus on new product sales made out of either waste byproducts or reused products. So increased market share, premiums, loyalty. We also see, and companies aren't often tracking this, improved resiliency of your supply chain, because if you're taking back and putting used product into your new product, you're less dependent on globalized supply chains with the geopolitical risk that comes along with them. Ability to make sustainability claims, as we talked about, with this third-party certification. So if you have closed-loop certification, for example, and also the media really likes this, so you can get a lot of good free coverage that we can monetize as a result of that work. Some examples, again, in the healthcare space, we worked with Advocate Health around reprocessed devices. And we found that through reprocessing and reusing those devices, there was significant benefit to the tune of about $3.5 million annually, along with obviously the environmental benefits of this, because it's a decarbonization benefit as well as a waste reduction benefit. We worked with Reformation on looking at the financial benefits of their circularity program, where they were working with ThreadUp, a platform that takes back and resells Reformation clothing. And again, net benefit for them on an annual basis of close to $2 million of that pre-loved apparel program. And then my final example, employee satisfaction, safety, well-being, can drive productivity, retention, lower recruitment costs, reduce risks of employee lawsuits, reduce insurance costs, particularly around safety issues, good corporate reputation, customer satisfaction. If you have annoyed employees, they're not going to treat your customers well, right? We'll hear more about this when we hear from KKR on the work they're doing with ESOPs. But just to give you an example of this, of our work that we've done, we worked with REI to monetize the returns of their strong focus on sustainability and purpose. Found that that was resulting in reduced turnover and hiring costs and increased productivity to the tune of about $34 million net, which was about 5% of payroll. So nothing to sneeze at. All right, so I'm going to turn now to our sustainability value driver tool. You're going to have the benefit of being in workshops with our three amazing management consultants, ADL, BSR, and Fulcrum. So I'm just going to go through a very high-level, quick couple of slides about it, because you will have time to really work on this in more detail. And then I'm going to give a couple of cases and then move on. So this tool, which was developed with the really significant help of ADL and Julia Marchesi a year or two ago, that we then began to test this past year, has two phases, a due diligence phase and a 100-day holding period phase. In the due diligence phase, it gives you a drop-down of CSB material issues for your company, your target company. Then it gives you a populated list of not only the material issues, but the sustainability strategies, practices, and value drivers associated with that issue. So you can see here, for example, under energy management. Then it gives you an opportunity to rate the company based on its current performance with a set of questions. And then it will generate, across these topics, and then it will generate a heat map for you that tells you where your red flags are, where your green flags are, but also with your value drivers. So it's not that, for example, a red flag may tell you that you don't want to buy the company. Maybe the red flag says, all right, they're bad on chemicals, but actually if we double down and really address that, we can really drive value for the company. Or they're actually quite good on sustainable packaging. Maybe they're undervalued for that. So if we buy that and really build that out, we can actually drive value for the company. And then in stage 2, you've gone ahead and decided to make an investment in the company. We then give you very specific upside and downside areas to assess for the company, with, again, a series of questions and ways to rate it. Then we will give you a heat map and a scatter plot that shows you where you could prioritize based on upside, downside, and level of effort. And then once you pick where you're going to focus, we give you a database of sustainability KPIs and ROSI, return on sustainability investment KPIs, so that you can put in place the way to track the sustainability narrative and impact, as well as the financial returns from the work that you're doing. So this just shows you the issue prioritization. This will automatically populate after you've done your initial analysis that shows you high upside, high downside, et cetera. And then also if you add level of effort and investment, not in actual numbers, but sort of your assessment of it, then that helps you identify where the low-hanging fruit is. So moving on to our cases, and again, my deep thanks to ADL, Fulcrum, and BSR, who on a pro bono basis over the last year made commitments to work with a series of GPs and work with them to build out a number of cases. In the panel after this, we'll hear from Francisco Partners, Kohlberg, and MB Renaissance. I've included Builders Vision, unfortunately couldn't be here, but I've included their case as well. So as we look at what came out of this work as they tested this methodology, Kohlberg and Co., who did this work with BSR, identified for a healthcare company what the material issues are, so labor practices, business ethics, et cetera, what the value drivers are of those particular issues, the current practice at acquisition, and then a rating of how they performed. Based on that, again, this fed into the tool. And so we saw some upside, downside areas to potentially focus on related to climate change, because as we saw, they were pretty low performing in that area. Then, with that analysis, they identified kind of what their strategy, well, what they did, what they found. So they found that there was downside risk related to climate disclosure, upside opportunity in terms of new contracts with pharma companies that have public net zero targets, right? So then that created an opportunity to go in and analyze and invest against both upside and downside. And you can see here that they looked at sort of what the value creation opportunities would be as a result of investing around their decarbonizing. Another study with BSR is with the NB Renaissance case study. So here we looked with NB Renaissance at an apparel, accessories, and footwear company. And here again, you can see that on the labor practices, supply chain management, et cetera, rating of how they're currently performing. And so labor practices was an area of potential concern. And you can see an upside versus downside analysis over here. And so what they decided to focus on was social welfare to improve the performance of this company and identify what the ROSI monetization would be. So if they reduced absenteeism, for example, by 15%, ensuring 100% machinery productivity, looked at the savings of all this work, right? So again, understanding ahead of time that if they invested in that, there could be significant savings. They also looked at financing accessibility, ESG-linked financing option where they could save money, customer retention, also a potential benefit. And then they identified sort of what the specific areas they were going to focus on, and that they also wanted to have that help them with their improvement of their EcoVadis ratings. And then my final example is with ADL and Builders. This company is a solar company for moderate income homeowners. Again, looked at sort of what the strategic goals were, what the company was doing, and then assessed the key issues for the company where there was good performance on a variety of different issues. But there were a couple of areas where there was some more opportunity related to waste and supply chain management. So what we saw here, again, was the scatter plot spitting out that waste and hazardous materials management had an upside potential, and then there were some potential risks around their supply chains that they needed to manage from a sustainability perspective. So they put in place a series of practices, KPIs, ROSI KPIs that they were going to assess for each of these areas. And just to pull out here one on zero waste recycling, how they then monetized and understood what the benefit would be of this circular approach around reusing and reselling solar panels. So I'm going to end here. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm getting through this on time. This is so exciting. Now Gordon won't yell at me. So I wanted to end with kind of where are we going with all this. So UN PRI, NYU Stern Center for Sustainable Business, and Bain as the pro bono consultant are leading an initiative to bring more focus to sustainability linked value creation to the PE community, particularly to the signatories of UN PRI, of which there are 2,000 private market signatories. The project objectives is to really learn from companies, and thank you those of you who actually responded to the survey I sent to everybody ahead of time, and if you haven't yet done it, we are still accepting it, so hopefully you'll get motivated after this. We'll resend it so you could all take that survey. But the survey and then in-person interviews and workshops in January are all helping to drive understanding of how you all are seeing value creation and what you need to actually ensure that there's value creation related to sustainability in your companies. We will have a discussion about this in more detail, interactive discussion with Mark Lino of Bain later this afternoon after lunch. And this is just to give you a quick overview of the surveys that we've received to date in terms of the responses. So what we can see here is that we asked people about sort of investors' maturity level on sustainability linked value creation. Sort of fairly decent of a small sample size, let me stress, assessment of being relatively competitive about that. Also 80% saying that this is a really important component in fulfilling their fiduciary duty, that this value creation has a moderate to significant financial impact, 65% said that. And then in terms of impact of sustainability linked value creation on portco's outcomes, you can see here a big focus on cost and risk mitigation, as well as slightly less, but still significant revenue and multiple optimization. And what they identified as the key drivers: operational efficiency, better customer value proposition, and employee engagement, which we saw actually in some of these examples that I showed earlier. So thank you so much for your attention. Unfortunately, no time for questions, but I will be around during the lunch period, and also we will get to hear from these three of these terrific GPs with Amy from Impact Alpha. And Amy, thank you so much for all your help with the company to speak with us now. So Gordon, back to you.